Hello music friends! Today we are learning how to make the box violin as well as the stick bow. This is an excellent craft for parents looking for a way to teach their students or their children about various instruments. It's really easy to make and it takes minimal supplies. This is also important for violin teachers who would like to have the practice violin for their student to use for the first month or so before they actually get the real instrument. You can either make this with your child as a fun craft, or you can make it by yourself as the adult and present it to the child. Stick around and I'll show you how it's done. The supplies you'll need for the box violin include the parts for the body of the instrument. So you can choose a snack box. You want to make sure it's the right size for your student. So I've included a couple of different options for different sizes. This one is a little bit wider, but a little bit thinner, which can be easier for the student's neck. This one is a little bit thicker, but it is a little bit smaller in width. Now to wrap the violin, you will use craft paper, or you could use a brown grocery bag. For the neck of the violin, you can use a ruler. I would not use a wooden ruler because of the sharp metal edge. After you have started using the craft paper, you can use your scissors and Scotch tape to actually wrap it, kind of like a present. Then to draw the parts of the violin, I try to have 4 Sharpies available. Now if you want to get really fancy, you can use puff paint, or you could use glue and glitter to make the strings, the 4 strings of the violin, a little bit fancier. So that's up to you. I also recommend the poly pad from Young Musicians because it has this nice concave feel, and that gives more support to better hold the violin. It comes with this 3-part rubber band. Now, if you are literally just making this as a fun craft, you can just use regular foam and a basic rubber band. Now for the actual bow, you can get a dowel rod from a home store, and you can either saw it yourself to the right size, or you can ask them to saw it for you if you ask nicely. You may also want some corn cushions, which sounds funny, but these help to be able to put your fingers in the right place on your fake bow. And then you might also want some electrical tape to allow for better bow distribution. Let's get started. We're going to start by making the violin with our snack box. Again, check beforehand if your child or student has any allergies. And you want to go ahead and attach the ruler as the neck of the violin. So I have about 7 inches hanging off the side, and I put it in the center of my box. Now I wrap it largely like a Christmas present. Of course, the ruler will make it slightly different. So place the ruler side down. This makes me think back to my middle school days when we did present wrapping at Christmas time as a fundraiser. Now is where you have to change a little bit from your Christmas present. You're going to cut out a little strip here until you hit the box with your scissors by the ruler. And keep in mind, I'm a violin teacher by trade, not a craft Pinterest person. There you have the body of the violin. I want you to notice how the side that I actually taped is opposite of the ruler. The ruler is on the top clean side, and the seam is on the back side, so that when you're actually holding it, your taped side is not as visible. Now for the fun decor. Now, if you are a violin teacher, I realize you will have a violin at your home. However, if you are just making this as a fun craft for your kid, for school, you may not have access to a violin. So this is a student violin. It's my daughter's. And so it kind of gives you an idea of what we are trying to imitate. And if you want to learn all the parts of the violin, you can check out my previous video. So I'm going to flip them around for my sake. I like to start with the tailpiece, which is this part right here. So I kind of find the ridge from the ruler, and I go a little above where the ruler cuts off. Again, I am not an artist by any means. This is about the extent of my artistry. Here's our tailpiece, okay? And then I just colored in. Again, you can be as meticulous or not as you want. If you're doing this actually with your child or student, you might want to use washable markers. Okay, next we're going to do the bridge, which is this part. On here, it's just going to be a rectangle. Again, if you are a better artist, feel free to make it fancier if you would like. Next, actually, I'm going to go ahead and do these are the F holes. And sorry, I already have the yellow brick road here, but these parts are shaped kind of like an F and an S. Can you see? There we go. Next, I like to do the chin rest. This is the part where your chin actually rests on the violin. Here's the button of the violin right there. So just draw it right down here. Again, it's not really the size, but it's just so that your student can see kind of what it looks like. There you go. All right. Now, I definitely do not draw all the parts of the violin for this one. I go over them with my student on the real one. Next, though, I'll go ahead and start drawing the strings. So your smallest string on the far to the right is the E string. And I like to use the different colors. Okay, so they can see. Then you have the A, second to the right. Then D. And lastly, your lowest string, G. I'm going to extend that bridge just a tiny bit. Now, this is where you can add the puff paint. I'm first going to show you, though, how to hold it before we get that ambitious. So the next thing you're going to need is the poly pad and the special rubber band. Now, the poly pad does come in a variety of sizes. Usually for young students, you'll want something like the small or extra small. If you are doing this with older students, more like junior high, you might need the medium or the large, but those are pretty thick. So again, if you're doing this with younger grade school students or preschool students, go with the small or even the extra small. Like I said, you can use the regular rubber band if that's easier for you, or you use this poly pad rubber band, which is a little excessive for now, but this is a good transition because you can use this with your actual instrument. So when you're holding the violin, first of all, you want to make sure your student knows which hand you hold it with, which is your left hand, is your violin hand. So you're going to place your left hand with kind of this L right here on the shoulder of the violin with your thumb along the back. You can kind of see that. It's really important that you hold it out to the side. We don't want what I call elephant trunk, where it's hanging down in the front. You really want it out to the side. So I'm looking to my left and I'm keeping it in. And you can see that this poly pad is nice because it actually cushions that collarbone. It's supposed to be totally flat. Now again, if you're just making this for fun, you can use a flat sponge. But if you are using this to prepare a student, I would use the extra cushion here. Okay, then you grab here again, and you can put it under your arm. Now I'll go ahead and add the fun puff paint just for kicks. I'll go ahead and do the blue here. They don't have to match your Sharpies, but have your finished violin. Now I'd like to talk about the bow. This is my daughter's bow, so it kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like. And again, you can see the parts of the bow in my previous video. Here is our dowel rod. It's about 5/16 in diameter, and it's about 15 or so inches in length. Usually they come in about 3 to 4 foot lengths, so you will probably have to saw it yourself or ask someone at the home store to do it. Sometimes I've used like a wide pencil before if I have a young enough, small enough student, but I've overall preferred this option. Now you have a couple of different choices for how to hold it with your pinky. This is one of the trickiest things for students, is you're supposed to have this bent pinky. I talk about the hand as like a boat with several different people that come on the boat. We have a pinky dancer that stands on top, and students always want to do this, which is incorrect. You need to have bent pinky. Then you have the lazy men hanging their legs over the water, into the water. You have this little scaredy cat that just dips its toes in the water, and you have the big bad shark with a fin. You want that bent thumb. So bent pinky and bent thumb are really important. So to emphasize that, I sometimes like to use the Bow Buddy. Now this is more expensive, so if you are just doing this as a craft, I would not recommend it. But if you are trying to prepare a student for the real bow, you can use these. So this little part here helps your pinky know right where to go. Now this does not fit on the dowel rod. I don't even always use it on the actual bow. I have mixed feelings about it. I do love this little part. I wish that they just sold it for this. I'll show you what's involved to put this on the real bow. And this is actually to keep your pointer finger a little up. So remember, that's the scaredy cat. So it's not bad, but again, on small hands, sometimes it feels really cumbersome. And then you can move the pinky grip onto your bow like this. Now, as you see, I actually do have a little corn cushion here for my thumb. Later, you could be putting it inside, theoretically, of this bow grip. But when I first start my students, I like to have their thumb on the outside since it's kind of awkward anyway. So you can buy these corn cushions, which you can get from your local pharmacy, or now I've started buying some of them online. You place the pinky one on the edge. Unfortunately, these do try to come off the bow. They also try to come off the fake bow. So you really have to kind of press down quite a bit. And try to have quite a few of these available because each week the student tends to need a new one. So this is more durable, but again, depending on how long you think you'll be using this. That gives your pinky an idea where to go. Then I put a spot for your thumb, the shark, underneath. This will be dependent on the size of your student. So a lot of times I'll do this when they're actually with me, or your child, if you're doing it with your own child. There you go. Now, as you see, my daughter's bow has a few of these different electrical tape places so that she knows how much bow to use for different parts of her song. So we can do that. We can kind of replicate that for our rhythms, even here on this bow. So I kind of just pick whichever colors the kids like. And there you have it. So you can do short, 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 long, long, short, 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 long, long. There's your bow. So here's the finished product. My students tend to use this for about a month for my younger ones, if they're maybe 4 or 5. Definitely if they're 6 or 7, it might only be for a couple of weeks. And once they've graduated, they're allowed to open it up and eat the snacks that are inside, unless they want to keep it as a special remembrance item, or if it's a craft that you're doing and they want to preserve their violin. If you liked this video, please subscribe, and I hope I see you next time.